It is an early Valentine's present to you, the lovely, lovely listeners and people who watch the live stream of Dingers. Tonight, we have special guest Mason McCrae, and we are going to talk about the 2021 MLB first-year player draft, the Rule 4 draft. Call it what you will. Fantasy darlings, get ready. We're going to talk about them. It's time for Dingers!
This is Dingers, way more than fantasy baseball. We keep it real when we talk and knock it straight out the park. Let's see the stats. What's the average draft position? What kind of plays you making? Check the wins above replacement. Check the lineups and the points. This I gotta see. What's your path to victory? Are they aiming for a dynasty? Get points going head to head. Please don't do me no favors. We're always watching waivers. Ain't no minor league. This is major. Yeah, Dingers. Let's go.
Welcome to Dingers, the only fantasy baseball podcast for smart people. It's not just Nathan Hickey that wins you championships. That's why week in and week out, delivering tips and strategies to help you live that straight up OG lifestyle. Tyler Child's joined again this evening by Robbie Baseball from the Murder Room. What's happening, Robbie? We got our guest here coming in as well. So I'll kick us all in. Haven't done this one in a while. So we got the tripod tonight. Mason McCrae is joining us, our in-house college expert that we like to bring in every year. This is one of my favorite episodes, guys. I love this. Mason, before I let you say hello to everybody, I just want to say how excited I am for Carlos Correa to sign somewhere else so that you and me, as a result of following your lead on this one, can be right about Shea Whitcomb.
Oh, Shea Whitcomb. Okay, we're already dropping some deep nuggets.
Yeah.
That's all we do. Deep nuggets.
Well, it would have been 2 years ago, right? That he was drafted. Is that right? Or am I getting my years
last year? Yeah.
Yeah. So to like 2020, right? So he was the last guy you threw in on the 2020 episode, and I was like, I'm writing that guy down, and then I went and watched a bunch of film, and I'm like, oh, there's something here, and he's produced so far in the minors, and nobody's talking about him yet. But I think there's a pathway there now, so we'll see.
He's definitely a better fantasy player than real life, too. Steals a crap ton.
That's what we like.
Absolutely. Yeah. So tonight we are going to cover the MLB Rule 4 draft, or the 2021 amateur draft, whatever you call it. Dynasty players, dynasty owners, GMs, we live for this. The off-season draft season for the redraft crew, they go crazy, right? They talk about the guys that are going to come in out of nowhere and win you your leagues. And we are talking about the guys who you can get now who will be in a position to do that in 3 to 5 years? Well, after last year, I guess there could be some guys that'll do it next year, because we saw players drafted in 2020 that play. It's so funny. It just turned 2022 and we're already confused, like we were just talking about with 2020 draft. Anyway, Garrett Crochet was drafted and came up in the same year, and then we'll see who are going to be those guys from this latest class that can come up and make an impact. And yeah, we're going to talk about. But before we do that, Ty, we got to do that thing.
A long time ago, someone decided to put stuff in glass bottles. In some of these bottles, they put juice or milk, and that was stupid. Today, only alcohol and a few other products remain in the containers from the gods. It's time for beers and bourbon, because good advice only comes in a bottle.
Uh-oh, sounds like I'm going solo, boys. Last time Mason was on, I think he had a Gatorade.
He did, yeah.
It's a Gatorade again.
Is that the Michael special stuff? Space Jam reference? No one?
No. Is that
somebody
is that
out there is laughing in their car? Yeah,
the
someone in their
second?
car is laughing at that joke, and thank you for whoever that poor soul is. I've got just a glass of water because I'm still recovering from the COVID here. Been a couple rough days, but we're on the backside of it. So this is the first like thing that I've actually been able to accomplish that wasn't just sleeping. So
And
here we are.
I was super nice about it too, only mocking you the entire time and calling you a drama queen. So
Yeah, verbatim.
Exact words on the text chain talking about, you will be fine tonight, right? I'm not feeling great. Come on, drama queen. But anyway, so tonight we are, like I said, excited to have Mason back with us to talk about the players on the high school and college draft from last year and what are reasonable expectations, tools, things that we can talk about, what they signed for and does it not matter, all those kind of things, including the organizations that they're now in. And I think we agreed beforehand. I know I just said it, but I think we're good to start at the furthest away guys or the least noticeable, and then we're going to move our way up. Is that correct? Are we good, guys?
Works with me.
All right. So first guy that I want to talk about, and it's two Pittsburgh guys. Mike Jarvis, who is a 23-year-old shortstop, signed out of San Diego State for a whopping $7,500 US. And he started in rookie ball and then finished the year at high A. And I very quickly pulled it up. So 357 batting average in, only 42 at bats in rookie ball, and then was immediately brought up to high A to finish off the year and only got 5 games in there. I find this fascinating because he signed for nothing and he's 23 and the club has nothing invested in him. So I feel like they might just run him up because they can and then let him go. But I don't know, Mason, if you know much about him. He's been an average hitter in college and there's never been power, and stolen bases are in the teens. I guess he had a 16 season in this past year and 21 in 19. So I don't know if there's a whole lot to him. Was he somebody that was at all on your radar? He was picked 163rd overall in the draft.
Yeah, I didn't even have him on my board, honestly. He's just mostly a contact-oriented, like up the middle, like type of defender. Nothing like flashy, really, which is why he signed for 10 grand, 8 grand. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was my curiosity about him. And then the other guy was Jackson Glenn, who signed with Pittsburgh at 133rd overall, and he signed for more. $12,500. So very similar with a couple of those picks back to back for Pittsburgh. And Glenn,
that is a lot for Pittsburgh, though.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I thought it had said that he had been drafted before and not signed, but the only thing I see here is that he was drafted this past year in the 5th round, and he was similar. Started in rookie ball, but rookie ball for him was 2 games and 5 at bats, and then he got 100 at bats in high A with a 337 average, 927 OPS, and did that with 0 dingers. So I'm interested. He's a walk machine. So 22 walks, 21 strikeouts. And again, just like in college, right? Murder balled it. Where did he go? Dallas Baptist is where he's coming out of. So do you think, Mason, there could be anything to this guy? He is slated at the corner, and we know that Pittsburgh has that Key Brian Hayes fella. So I don't know if and Mason Martin's at the other side of that corner. I don't know if there's anything there for him or if this is just kind of an interesting scenario for this player.
I think he had one of the highest contact rates of anybody drafted last year that signed. Really, really, really good contact, and he didn't chase a lot. I'm pretty sure he had absolutely 0 power in college.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing here. And I think that's one of the he did have 21 homers this year, actually. That was his breakout year. Prior to that, though, no more than 7 in a season. So that was his big thing. And maybe that's why he got taken where he did as well, was the fact that he finally had a power surge. But we'll see with him. Anyway, the next guy up here, you have ranked in the 70s, Nathan Hickey with Boston. Now, of course, he's a catcher. And when you're talking fantasy, 73 is often too high to rank a catcher just because they don't get enough playing time versus an everyday player, especially outfielders or whatever, any other position that's not catcher, to warrant the points or the stats, the counting categories. And we've talked about it, Ty, where you pick your categories with catchers. You want them to not hurt you in average, or you want them to provide you with power. Nathan Hickey seems to be somebody that's not necessarily a target for you, although it looks like he kind of was for Boston, getting $1 million at pick 136. So what are your thoughts on Hickey?
Like really, really good offensive stuff. I'm pretty sure he had like the best numbers on the Florida team, which had like Judd Fabian and Jacob Young. So like some pretty good guys. Like good combination of like contact, power, like pretty good swing decisions. And I'm not even sure if he's a catcher to be honest. Like last year he would like split time with this freshman catcher they had, Mac Jessette, which was kind of weird. Like he would go and play like first base some days. So like he might end up being like a first baseman, left fielder. But like the offense is really good.
Okay, so that's the reasonable expectation that Hickey could potentially move off the position as he continues to develop. And he was drafted as a 21-year-old this year. So the first guy that was picked really high that you seem against, and it makes sense because it was picked with Kansas City, and they've done this before, was Frank Mazzucato.
And just really quick to backpedal on Hickey.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Boston's already listing him as a catcher DH third baseman.
Okay. Well, that's because they don't have anybody at third base.
Yeah.
Just that Devers guy. But who cares about 100 guys with 40 home run pop? So, yeah, I butchered the name, but I'll try it again. Frank Mazzucato with Kansas City, 18-year-old pitching prospect out of East Catholic High School in Texas. He got paid, Mason, $3.5 million bajones. But you don't like him. What's up with that?
He's good. Don't get me wrong. It's just like the reasoning for them taking him was Dayton Moore said you can't teach spin, which I don't know how you say that. Like the last 5 years, like the revolution on like pitch design has been like the biggest thing. So like you can't teach spin makes absolutely zero sense. But he does have like a really good curveball, which is why they said they took him. And like the fastball is okay. He just seems like more of like a projection guy. And so like the gap between the floor and ceiling is pretty large. And I just much rather take like a shot on like some of the other prep guys, like their floors are way higher. Like, Jackson Jobe, like crazy good athlete, really, really, really good slider and like way more velo. And like it's already present stuff too. Like I'd rather take a shot on like Jobe, who got taken barely any higher than him.
Okay. So
is this a bit of a Hochiever 2.0 kind of thing? Like, is this a guy lefty, not really a power arm, good off speed that's supposed to be and maybe never becomes that? Is that the way you kind of see it?
Yeah, probably, yeah. Like I think they're just hoping he gains a bunch of velo, right?
It is a good hook, though. I will say that.
Almost as devastating as the Honeywell screwball. But anyway,
well, don't you wish that on anybody else's elbow?
Hey, he's back, baby. And with Oakland this year, you're going to see the Honeywell and puck train. And then we're going to have to come together on it. We're going to end up piggybacking off each other. And then that'll be like our worst enemy, or not our worst, our worst case scenario is each one gets 4 innings and then they alternate. But anyway, next guy up, Mace, you have at 53 is Ryan Holtgate with St. Louis, 21-year-old outfielder from Arizona. And he signed, I don't know exactly where he was with, I think it was around in range for what he was, $875,000. He already with St. Louis went to A-ball and started his pro career, 114 at bats for him. He got a couple of dingers, had 3. Didn't do that great from an average standpoint, which is his calling card, or was at least in college the last 2 years. 377 average, 351 average, and then he goes to the pro ball, obviously adjusting, 193 average, and learning curve. Do you see Holtgate as possibly somebody being forgotten and then coming up out of nowhere like so many St. Louis players, or do you think there could be a little more or a little less to Holtgate's game?
Potentially, yeah. Like he had some really, really good power in college. The issue was just he hit it more on a line instead of like kind of fly ball range, and so like he didn't have as much home runs as he could. I guess like Patrick Bailey, like he stunk in his first year in pro ball, and then like he kind of came on in the Arizona Fall League, and so maybe that could happen with Holgate. I had him in like the low 30s pre-draft, and I dropped him a pretty good amount. Like he was brutal this year. But maybe he could come on again. The power's real.
Mason, I don't know if you have any of this data. Like, is he getting beat up in the zone? Like this kind of no, because like this, you always have weird stats. That's why I like to ask. But one of the things, like this is, I see some similar things here, Robbie, that I saw with Ha-Seong Kim, right? Just in that swing, like I see some weakness up and in. So I don't know if he just got exposed with better organizations pitching against him. and some better pitching. But will be interesting to see if he can fix that, because like he drops those hands early in the swings that I'm looking at here. So that's the only thing I'll add to that one. I just wanted to get your thoughts.
That is interesting. I've got a good one here at 41. He was picked 48th overall, and of course, he's with my Seattle Mariners. That's Edwin Arroyo, 17-year-old shortstop out of Puerto Rico. I want to say the academy right here. I'm not going to be able to. Arecibo Baseball Academy. I think that's right. He got 1.6. Thank you. 1.65 million. And the fun fact here is that as a 17-year-old, began his pro ball career at rookie ball, and even at rookie ball he was almost 3 years younger than everybody he was playing against. Only had 71 at bats, which is fine, but 211 batting average, and on base, which is great, 337 for somebody who I would assume at 17 would be scared of the people that are throwing baseballs towards him. So a lot of credit to Edwin Arroyo. Is this a projectable guy for you, Mason? Is like, I'm all about the Seattle guys because I just think Jerry DiPoto is very good at his job. And I feel like when he's collecting talent, I want to know more and more about them. Or is this somebody that's just such a project? It could be like, is it Sam Carlson, who was drafted and is since like, injuries. Like, is Arroyo somebody you would take a chance on in a dynasty draft?
Definitely, yeah. He's tough to like pinpoint, like in fantasy, like relative to real life. Like he's a really good defensive shortstop, which I think is part of the reason he was taken so high. But he's also a really good athlete and steals bases. And then like if you go and look at his swing, it's absolutely gorgeous. Like just line drives all over the field. So like maybe if he starts developing, right, and like the Mariners are pretty dang good. I mean, you look at their system. So like maybe if they can start getting him just to like start hitting balls harder in the air, like could have a really good shortstop who steals bases.
Ooh, baby, would that be good? Yeah, so now we've got some of the guys here who, let's see, we've got the 9th overall pick that you got ranked 37th here, Sam Bachman, or Bachman, as everybody will say, with the Angels. Is it because he's an Angel? And I know Ty hates Angels pitchers specifically. 21-year-old out of Miami, Ohio, and he got paid. But you're less a fan of him than the Angels were to draft him.
Yeah, most of my reason is because of injuries. He's had like 4. I think he had a back injury. I think he had an elbow injury. I think he had a shoulder injury. And then just the fact that like he was throwing 100 miles an hour. I think he averaged at like 95 in the MAC, right? Not a good conference. And he was struggling to miss bats with his fastball. Like that's just terrifying.
You had me until struggling for people to miss, because I love a guy with a lot of injuries. That's most of my rosters, especially in our home league, heavy on the high injury risk. He was sounding
I'm making a note to myself right now to make a tiny and violin video for when we get onto these rants.
Well, I was just say he was sounding a lot like a Strasburg up until you said he was not able to strike guys out. And that's the one thing here. So the next gap that you've got is at 36 is Max Muncy. No, not that one. But he was picked 25th overall by Oakland, 18-year-old shortstop. Man, they love getting young shortstops at Oakland. Last year it was Soderstrom, a catcher, which I think, I don't know if it's official yet that he's not on that position anymore. But either way, another young guy that they've taken. What are your thoughts on Muncy?
So imagine if Marcelo Mayer imagine him with like slightly worse power and hit. Like instead of a 60 power hit, it's 55. That's essentially what Muncy is.
Okay, so maybe if you miss out on the early round and you're coming around later, and Muncy might be the next guy to pick up.
Yeah, like he's like the same athlete, like from California, like a pretty decent shortstop, maybe third baseman, like really good body, like all that stuff. It's just like the hit stuff is just barely worse. So like he's a good dollar store version of Mayer.
Oh, I like that. That's almost a bargain. And depending on exactly what happens in the fantasy drafts that everybody are in, or the dynasty drafts here, this is looking like the type of guy that could fall a little bit. A high school shortstop is a hot ticket early in this draft. But I guess as you drop down a little bit further, that's when some teams, especially in your leagues, if are 20 teams or more, they might be looking more for college guys than they are high schoolers. So Muncy could possibly be a faller. Is that right? A faller? Could fall. Words is tough.
Yeah. And next up is Andrew Painter of Philadelphia, which, I mean, if you can find a better name for a pitcher.
Yeah.
I mean, 13th overall, went to Philly, Calvary Christian High School. I don't know where that is, but just under 4 million at 3.9. You got him ranked 35th. Is this justified, or is this it's an 18-year-old arm and you're not ready to put him above the rest of the group?
He's tough. Like, I love the Phillies org, so I think he got into like a really good situation, like with all their pitching coordinators they have that are really good. The fastball is I'm iffy on it. Like, there's been a lot of guys with high slots and tall guys that have good fastballs in the MLB. Kershaw, Snell, Verlander, Glasnow, like so many guys. And so he
Patrick
could have-
Sandoval. Yep. Sorry, ignore me.
Yeah, he
Right.
keeps
That
mentioning it. forever.
Continue with good analysis. Go
I
ahead.
love that. Did you hear what he said, Rob?
No, I didn't. What?
Oh, I don't know who that is.
Oh, wow.
Is he a giant?
He is a giant, but he plays for the Angels. Yeah, we'll talk after.
He's like
about
SP7. Don't worry about it.
Oh my gosh, or Cy Young. Either way. Please, let's discuss the Painter and his friend Mick Abel. Maybe they'll be able to come up together as a future 1-2. That'd be pretty.
Do you know who these mechanics remind me of for Painter is Rich Harden, which is very, like it's an older name, but like really just like a tall like stance, and then just really comes from that. Like, I think just in a couple, like I'm only watching a couple clips repeating here, but like there's a tell between the off speed and the fastball. Like I would say that's what they're going to correct here, and maybe they know that and see some of that. But like you can really see the difference between the pitches coming out of his hand. And so for me, like that's an opportunity for growth. So I think this is one that will probably struggle early in the minors, and he'll have to make some corrections. So like we always talk about this from a fantasy perspective, like this is a guy for me, I'm going to be buying, but I'm going to wait about a year until he gives up a bunch of dingers on pitches that are scripted. And you know, when people are getting free bulls or free steaks for hitting the bull, I'll be cashing in on some Andrew Painter shares.
That's an interesting analysis.
I almost went down the old get a good look at a T-bone steak, but
by sticking my head up a bull's ass. But I'd rather take the butcher's word for it. Hey Mason, you don't know because it came out before you were born, but that's from this Tommy boy.
I love
There we
that
are.
you just have that sitting there.
Hey, it's very close to my Fast and Furious 6. I think it's 6. These, Mason, what you don't know, they're called DVDs. This is what old people used to watch movies on.
I'm not sure.
I also have a VCR right out of screen. I'm not going to pull that in. But anyway, next guy up here is what I would like to say is somebody we don't need to really worry about in fantasy. It's more he'll get pushed so far back in the draft at some point you have to take him, and that's Matthew Nelson, catching prospect with Cincinnati, 22-year-old out of Florida State. He's ranked 34th for you. In fantasy purposes, I always say you cannot possibly rank a catcher above 20th, no matter how good they are, unless you don't think they're going to be at the position. Is that the case with Nelson? He is a catcher, and therefore, just for fantasy purposes, the production is going to possibly be limited.
I think he's a first baseman. Probably he's just one of the. He's like Hickey,
Okay.
like he just hits the shit out of the ball, and so that's why you're drafting him, and you're just hoping he's one of your 9 best like players like in the field, and just throw him somewhere.
Okay. And then the next guy up, Jay Allen, the second with Cincinnati. He was picked just before him, 30th overall. And he looks like he is more of a project 18-year-old outfielder out of John Carroll High School in Florida. Looks like since he was heavily scouting Florida for this. What are your thoughts on Mr. Jay Allen the second?
He's pretty like raw, like really good athlete, and just like you still need to add some like strength to him just so you can get some more like juice out of the bat. But like he's got really good bat to ball, and like it could be like a decent like right field center fielder potentially. He's someone I would probably avoid. I feel like I've seen him getting taken like really high in drafts, like in the top like 30 constantly, and I'd rather take him in like the 35 to 40 range.
Okay, I wonder if that's at all the result of like the Austin Hendrick from last year with Cincinnati, similar type guy, right? A high school talent, and sometimes teams are just, oh, right, like that they had a guy last year, so they're doing it again. They must know what they're up to. Maybe. maybe that's what's going on a little bit
Yeah,
there.
that's how you end up like falling in love with the Colorado Rockies farm system, though.
Absolutely, it is. You just blindly believe that they will get it done. The next guy up here is somebody that I've been hearing a bunch about, Joe Mack with Miami, catching prospect out of New York, which is not known for their baseball players. Just like New Jersey, outside of that Trout kid. So, what's the deal with Mack? Should dynasty owners be buying in?
Probably, yeah. He's like a decent defensive catcher, so he's probably going to stick there.
Okay.
The offensive stuff is pretty dang good too. Like he's really strong and advanced for his age. His brother was a 5th round pick, I think, 2 years ago to the Twins. So he's got like good bloodlines too. I don't know if I'd take him in fantasy, to be honest, just because like he's getting taken pretty high and he's a catcher and like he's not like a surefire thing. In the fantasy world, I think in the MLB he's a stud.
Okay.
Well, like I think for me, like you look at Nathan Hickey, like 7, 8, 10, 15 rounds later, I think is a better pick than where you're going to have to buy Joe Mack because of him being drafted higher. I think that's the reality.
Okay, and we do have, I think there's at least 3 catchers that we'll get to discuss up higher than those guys there. But
in this, to be fair, this group of catchers is better than in a lot of drafts, right? We've seen a couple good catchers over the last 3 or 4 years, but this is a pretty good crop offensively.
if they're able to stay at the position, they'll hurt most of the fantasy owners that drafted them. But if they're able to hit guys like Ryan Jeffers, who came up, I think it was within 18 months of draft day, he was in MLB. Some of those guys, if there's college catchers that can do that, they can actually really be an asset to teams. And sometimes you get that guy and you flip him. And sometimes it's a high school catcher and you're just crossing your fingers that they continue to develop. Like, I can't remember who it was out of Colorado, Drew Romo. Is that the right guy that was drafted last year? Yeah. That's one of those guys where you're like, oh, wow, that's a lot to dream on, right? Like a Colorado catcher. But if it comes together, right? Next guy up here is he was drafted 101st, not a Dalmatian, but Peter Hubeck with the Dodgers, 18-year-old pitching prospect. I just like the idea of the Dodgers and a pitching prospect and youth. All of that just sounds good to me. What can we look for in this guy who you have ranked 31st?
Oh, Hubeck's a stud. He already has a legit fastball and curveball, and so now you just let the Dodgers just develop him. He's going to be a stud. Like 94, 97 already, which is an absolute hammer of a curveball.
Well, there we go. Next guy up is an outfield prospect with Houston, and nobody likes the Astros. He was drafted 87th. You've moved him up your board 50. Is that how math works? 57 spots to 30th overall. We've got Tyler Whitaker. What is the deal with the Bishop Gorman High School drafted boy?
So I took him in my fantasy draft. I think he's my last pick. He also played shortstop in high school and on the prep circuit too, so he's pretty athletic. He's like 6'3", 6'4". He's huge, just a freaking physical specimen. Just hits the crap out of the ball, hits the ball in the air. I feel like his dad was like someone
Blue?
in like his dad had he was like in baseball already or something. Like I think he has good bloodlines too.
Like Lou Whitaker?
Is that his dad?
I don't know. That's why I'm just saying. Is it Lou Whitaker? I don't. We can look
Lou
it up.
Whitaker was the Hall of Fame pairing with Alan Trammell, basically.
Detroit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe our good friend Michael Govier is excited to go to Lou Whitaker. I think it's Lou Whitaker who's having his number retired in Detroit this year. And he said something like he'll be at that game for sure. And I thought that'd be fun if we could cross the border. Anyway, enough of that talk. 29th. I like this pick because I've drafted him already. Dominic Hamill with the Mets, a pitcher from Dallas Baptist, the 22-year-old. What do you like about Hamill? I know he's K's for days. He's a stud too. Yeah. Is he the type of guy that you think can remain as a starter all the way up and through? Or do you think he has some bullpen? I don't want to call it it's not potential. What is it, Ty? It's not a disappointment, but you don't want him going there. A tendency that he might end up as a bullpen guy because of the K rate, or do you think he's a legit starter?
I think he's a starter. Fastball, curveball are really good. Slider's been all right. Changeup's been pretty good. Fastball's an absolute lethal pitch. You could make the argument now that he might be better than Rocker, to be honest.
Okay. Geez. Well, in 91 and 2/3 innings this past year, he had 136 Ks and a whip of 1.13. And when you're striking that many guys out, to be able to also have a whip that is, I'd say that's within control. I always say 1.25 or lower is very manageable. Yeah, beautiful stuff. And then drafted to the old Mets, which is probably the most unfortunate part of the whole thing, right?
Just a real quick fun note on the Mets. I saw a progressive video of the salaries since 2000 of the entire league, and the Mets were like fourth. And I was like, oh man, that's embarrassing for the Mets. Like to have the fourth highest payroll and to have made as little of a dent
Yeah.
as they have in the last 20 years.
They had a World Series appearance at least.
Yeah, but like
So.
it was, yeah, cool.
Like one, right? But they still, I'm not saying that justifies
So
spending
did the
the fourth
Rockies.
most. Ooh, touche. Jeff Francis Rockies.
Yeah,
All right,
that was a fun team. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, 27th and 28th on your list here, Mason, are both Phillies. We've got Ethan Wilson, who's a 21-year-old outfielder, and Griff McGarry. Oh my God, how is he not already a relief pitcher with Philly? 22, and he is a pitcher. Oh, that's great. I'm glad that worked out. Out of Virginia. What do you like about these two guys? Fantasy relevant, or just the ability for them to become MLBers?
So Wilson like faced a decent amount of like arms in the last 2 years. He faced Leiter and Rocker in his second year, like the shortened 2020 year, and like he did all right. I feel like the one scaring thing with him is the last guy from South Alabama that got taken was Swaggerty with the Pirates.
Yep.
And I don't even, is he still playing?
He is. He's in the organization and is slowly becoming depth.
So he's actually becoming good now?
Well, depth, like within the organization, not a highly touted prospect.
Gotcha.
So.
Yeah, so Wilson is just like really good bat to ball skills is mostly his calling card, but he'll hit balls hard and like he's performed too in his like small school competition. So like he's worth some looks.
Okay, and Griff McGarry, obviously amazing name. Yeah,
so McGarry, I drafted in fantasy 35th overall in my FYPD. I would bet a good amount of money he's going to be in the MLB this upcoming year. Maybe he'll start out as a reliever, but he'll probably end up being a starter down the line.
All right, he's going to.
Why do you think he's ready to make that jump? Just out of curiosity, do you just think he's got enough polish? Is that the big reason?
Inside scoop.
Oh,
okay. Well, I like inside scoops. That's fun. Yeah. You heard it here, like maybe second or third, depending on how many people Mason's told.
So the next one up, I'm pretty interested in actually. It's a prospect with the Cubbies, James Triantos, $2.1 million signing bonus for the 18-year-old third baseman, 56 overall. I think he was only the second player whose drafted position was stated as third base. Because I remember looking for corner infielders, and I thought, man, like there's no one. And then his name popped up, and I'm like, 18. Geez, like him and Ed Howard are probably going to pair up at some point soon. So what do you think with him? Is he more prospect than he is promise at this point in time? Sorry, project is what I meant to say. Is he more project than he is promise?
Quick note on McGarry. So 530 pitchers last year in college baseball through 10 or more games, like starts. And he was third in swing and miss rate. He was right ahead of Bachman at 4. Rocker was 5. He was ahead of McGowan for the Rockies, Ryan Webb for the what's it called? Guardians, now they are. He was ahead of Leiter. He was ahead of Gavin Williams. The only guy that was ranked higher than him that got drafted was Matt Mikulski. So really good stuff.
What really quick? Do you have the ability to look at that for the previous couple of years?
Which year you want?
Well, I would love to see Manoah.
96. Oh, sorry.
Just as a guy that moved quick, or you see moving quick, I'd love to compare it against where Manoah sat in that same category.
He's 18.
I want to say 19. I want to say he was 19.
Let's see. I'll check.
Because just watching Manoah's success, right? I think it'd be good, for guys that move fast. I like to see. I think Toronto knew that big stocky guy out of West Virginia, right? They knew what they were doing with that pick. So I'd be curious to see what the profile is here.
19.
So while Mason is checking that out,
there was a West Virginia guy at 8, but not him.
just
went 8.
quickly here, while you guys are looking that information up, so that the people listening. So the people listening, while you guys are sorting this out, have a vague idea. In Mason's top 22, there are 10 infielders, 8 of which are shortstops. We've got 1, 2, 3 outfielders within that top 22 as well, and the rest outside, there are no first or third basemen. So Trianos is the highest up. The rest are pitchers here, and that's pretty normal on anybody's list. One thing that we have talked about a lot, because we seem to go against the grain in ranking lists, and Mason, you are doing the same thing whether you understand that you are doing it or not, is the emphasis is so heavy on position players versus pitchers. And one of the things that Ty and I have talked a lot about is that I have yet to see a team win a league, dynasty, redraft, or otherwise, that does not have great pitching or does not craft a team that has great pitching stats. But everybody from the prospect landscape seems to be really dialing back on the pitchers, just from a philosophy standpoint. Obviously, you've got a great brain and a great eye for this. Is there a reason why you think some teams, or sorry, some rankers, I should say, are almost anti-pitcher? When I'm looking at your rankings, and I'll do the tally a little bit later, but I'm not seeing a disproportionate amount of pitchers. Now, in your top 10, there's 1, but after that first point, it's almost as if you're making up for it the rest of the way. Not making up for it. It's leveled off the rest of the way within.
I like the making up for it perspective.
Yeah.
That's more fun.
I didn't mean to say, you're making up for it by just throwing some guys, because Gunnar Hoglund. Anyway, do you find that you just completely avoid that and just think on a talent basis solely, or is there injury risk or anything like that might be in your head a bit? Because you've mentioned it already with a few guys where injury has affected your ranking.
Honestly, I just kind of like rank guys and then just like don't think twice. Like I know pitchers are worse in fantasy, right, than position players. Like
that's the myth, is that you can't rely on a pitcher as much as you can rely on, say, a shortstop. It's just that the success rate, they're basically, for every stat, there's a really easy way to go against that same stat. Like less than 20%, I think, of high schoolers drafted in the first 2 rounds the last 10 years have ever played in MLB. So it immediately means you should really be careful with high schoolers. But as we're getting, closer, and you go to like the last 7 or 8 years, the numbers are actually trending upwards, but it's still not 80%. College first rounders are the ones who tend to make the major leagues more than anybody else. But as far as impact goes, look at the studs. It's J2 guys. It's a little mix of everybody, right? That's making up the baseball landscape. So that's why I was just kind of curious for that. And I know we're not into your top 10 yet, but yeah. So what was it you found? Ty was looking at, we're wanting to know about a little bit of Manoah stats.
Yeah. So in 2019, he was 38th in whip rate. So pretty dang good.
Yeah. So good, but McGarry's better.
Exactly. No.
There you go. That's what you need to know.
All right. Next guy up here was James Triantos with the Cubs, and I was just asking a little more. Is he more prospect project, or is he more somebody you can kind of bank on to develop as he ages up? He's only going to be 18 for next year, or sorry, in his draft year.
I feel like he's a safe bet to be good. He had the highest contact rate of any player in high school last year. So really, really good bat to ball skills. And then like all of a sudden when he got to Chicago, he just developed some power. Him and Ethan Stone just working it out. He's a stud. A second base, third base, maybe he goes in the outfield too. Just an absolute hitter.
Excellent.
Yeah,
all right.
And Prospectus almost has them they got him ranked 101 already. So just as a fun note.
Oh, as an overall prospect.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Geez.
No one else has them ranked, but Prospectus.
But they're 101.
Yeah.
I don't remember who it was that was the first to go really high on Chris Rodriguez with the Angels. And then it was
probably Jerry Dipoto.
No. But then as other people were kind of following up with it, everybody got all hyped up, headed towards the start of the 2021 season, right? With Chris Rodriguez being like found gold with the Angels, and then of course came out of the bullpen and then looked good, not great, but looked good, and then got hurt. And it was like, oh, right, that was the thing with him, was the injury risk. And everybody just kind of forgot about that and got all excited. So next guy up here, 25th, we're into the top 25 now. James Wood, not with an S, from San Diego, an outfielder. He was taken 62nd from IMG Academy. Is this just one of those projectable prospects, or is this more of the Robert Hassel was considered a polished high schooler? Am I correct in that?
Definitely.
Polished high school. Is Woods in the same class?
Wood is really, really raw. His like 99th percentile career outcome is probably like a Judge. Like a freak athlete that's huge that could play center field. Like he's that good defensively and athletically. He's just like so big that you'll just stick him in right field. I think he played center field this year, James Wood, and he absolutely raked in the minor leagues. I think like at 900 OPS, and I don't think he's hit a single home run, which is crazy because that was like his calling card in high school.
So that is room for improvement as he develops then. So maybe him at 62 in the overall draft is going to shield a lot of people away from thinking that he's a first round talent, but it looks like you're willing in a 30-team league to reach for him to take him in the top 25.
Definitely. So, I took him in my FYPD too.
Okay. And now we're going to get into an absolute 100% failed prospect who just got drafted. You know why? Because he's with Tampa Bay, and everybody thinks Tampa Bay drafts well, but you know what? They don't. Okay. Cooper Kinney is a second baseman, 18-year-old from the Baylor schools. That almost sounds like one of those the Ohio State places. He was a compensation pick, 34th overall, and you've got him up 10 spots higher. What's the deal with Cooper Kinney?
Just really good feel for the barrel. Bat speed, really bad speed. Probably more of a hitter than a defender. And yes, I do think the Rays are a good organization to get drafted to. I don't know why. Like it doesn't. I feel like they haven't drafted it like and developed a hitter in a while though, which is weird.
Well, Rob and I have this running theory because we did the research. We went back years and looked at like how far do we go back, Robbie? 07, 08, 09? I can't.
Wherever we stopped with the draft classes, well, it was at least I think it was 10 years back from today for sure. We definitely were doing 2012 with the draft classes, and the Tampa Bay drafting success was abysmal. But
I think it was the worst in the majors of guys that proceeded to the pros.
But Ty, you tell them the good news about Tampa Bay.
If they trade for a guy, though, that is a red button express. You get all over that all day, every day. And so if you look at a lot of the guys that have come into their system, they are developed once they arrive, but they don't tend to progress a lot of homegrown talent. It comes from outside the org, and then it's adopted stepchildren, if you will.
And let's admit Wander Franco signed J2. Like, sure, absolutely. But if we're going by MLB Rule 4 draft, which is what this amateur draft is, the success rate does go down considerably. So Tampa Bay is still stacked. No one's denying it. They got, 4 guys to every position at the MLB level. And then, down below, it's bubbling with prospects and potential. But I'm kidding when I'm saying he's gonna suck. But of course, you need to, kind of keep a little bit of a mind as far as like he's going to a stacked organization that's stacked up the middle, and that might make it even harder for him to find a spot. But hey, talent will prevail. So somebody coming back from Tommy John surgery, who I think Mason, it was safe to say without an injury would have been a top 10 pick, but fell back to Toronto at 19 was Gunnar Hoglund, and 21-year-old pitcher out of Mississippi, signed for $3.247.5 million. And you've got him ranked back a little bit from his draft spot at 24th. What are your thoughts on the Gun Man or the Hog Man, or a nickname that you have for him?
My nickname for him is really good. That's what he is. 4 pitches.
Oh.
I can't wait to go to the game with that sign. Go really good.
Yeah, go really good. Okay, sorry. 4 pitches.
4 pitches. Fastball is good. High spin guy. High spin curveball, slider. Good changeup. Good feel for all 4 of them. Throws them all for strikes. Just got hurt. So that's kind of why he dropped pretty much. Like he performed all 3 years in college. He's good. He even graduated from college, too. He's a genius.
Wow. Genius award. And 23, you've got Lonnie White Jr. with Pittsburgh, a high school outfielder, Malvern Prep School, signed for 1.5, and he was 64th overall in the draft. What do you think is the ceiling for Lonnie White Jr.?
Really, really high. Good athlete and hits the ball very, very hard. Really good power, and it shows up in games. He's like a better contact version of James White, okay, and slightly smaller. Like, so he's like a higher floor version of James Wood, I would say. Like, really good athlete, good power. I guess that's why I got taken slightly higher, and by a smart team too. When the Pirates take somebody, you know they're good.
Oh, I like that. Making the play for the organization itself, which I think we did talk a little bit about last year, right? Charrington and company making moves for the long haul here with Pittsburgh. Next up, we've got
slightly behind him. Actually, I misspoke.
You what? Sorry,
I said he got taken a few picks before him. It was actually.
Oh yeah, he was 2 back. Yeah. 64th overall versus Woods at 62. So next up was 33rd overall, Milwaukee Brewer Tyler Black, 20-year-old second baseman. You've got him ranked at 22. What are we thinking here? Middle infield, is he definitely second base? That's going to be his spot, or do you think he can move around a little bit?
He's definitely a utility type.
Okay.
He's also Canadian too, so you know he's going to be good.
Oh, boom, Ty. Where's the sound drop of like, "Oh, Canada"? We need that one.
I don't know that we have one, but this one will work.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so yeah, what is Black's calling card then? Contact, power, stolen base?
Yeah, it's like a combination of power and contact, and then just like ability just to absolutely cause havoc. Good base runner, good defensive player, just jack of all trades and a master of none. Although he did get to face, he faced Rocker and Leiter in the first week of the season. He did pretty good. I think he did a double off of Rocker in right field.
All right. There we go. And Rocker, as we all know, did not sign, is not on the list. Just like Jed Fabian, guys that don't sign don't get put on the list. And ideally, in your leagues, should not be draft eligible. Got to make sure they've signed with the team. And that's the only thing we put here, even though those guys were picked. They did not sign with the team, so they're not included in the ranking. So next guy up here, Matt Mikulski. I made that harder than it was. He was drafted 50th overall. But Mason, you've moved him up to 21st. San Francisco pitcher, 22-year-old. What's the deal?
So anytime the Giants take somebody, like you automatically got to just jump on them. Mikulski, I just said this actually, highest swing and miss rate in college baseball last year. And it wasn't even close. So the gap between him and number 2 was similar to the gap between number 2 and number 7. So pretty dang good.
Yeah, that works.
All right, so K's for days here. Now we're into the top 20. Connor Norby with Baltimore, second baseman again. I do get a little weirded out when I see second base because I think that already means they failed at shortstop. Anybody else that sees that, you've already said, this guy, Tyler Black, could be utility, whatever. Is that the same case with Norby, just not athletic enough to be a shortstop or doesn't have the arm?
Honestly, he really is like an identical version of Tyler Black. Like second baseman at a really good mid-major that just hits for contact, hits for just enough power, and could probably move around at the next level. Like they're honestly like two like exact same players.
Okay. All right. Next guy up here, Aaron Zavala with Texas, 21-year-old outfielder from Oregon. He was picked 38th overall. You've got him inside the top 20. What gives you that the confidence to jump him inside the top 20 for fantasy purposes?
So he just walks a ton. Like really, really good plate discipline. Yeah, so your on base percentage leagues, they already love him. And then he has really sneaky power. Like he's really good at like squaring up balls and creating backspin on him. I think the only reason he signed for such little, he had some weird injury, which I won't say, but I think that's why he signed for such little.
Okay, yeah, that's actually a good note here. 38th overall, he signed for $830,000, and we are now in the company of the multi-million-dollar signings. I'm just going to make sure that I'm correct when I say he has signed for the least amount inside your top 27. Sorry, Griff McGarry, again, best name in the draft. who signed for less, but everybody else has signed multi-million-dollar deals here. And Ty, the next couple guys here, 3 of 4 are pitchers. So I'd love to hear you and Mace discuss the Chase Petty and Ryan Cusack and even Jackson Jobs of the world.
Ooh, I'm gonna let you lead in with Chase Petty because I'm less familiar with him. So I'll let you go through that one first, Mace.
Petty is just electric. He's 94 to 99. I think he hit triple digits on the like in the summer, at the end of the summer. Like, he has a sinker, he has a 4-seam, he has a nasty sweeper in the low 80s. He's got a nasty changeup in the mid 80s. Like, his stuff is just electric. He's just like, the history of prep arms isn't really great in the first round. So that's something to look at. He's also a really good athlete and a really good mover on the mound. So, like, anybody that throws a baseball is at risk of injury, of course, because it's one of the worst things you can do to your body. But, like, he's a good athlete, he moves well. So, like, as best as you can to not get injured, I feel like he's doing that. He just throws 100 and he's 18 years old. So, like, that's going to do something to your body.
Yeah, well, and that kind of is the point as to why I'm unfamiliar with him. I don't spend a lot of time looking at high school arms. I just don't, because from a fantasy perspective, like, there's 2 ways I approach it. Is A, I let somebody like you describe what you just did and get everybody else super excited. They go and spend really early. They get disappointed. And the ones that do work out later, like, I'll see the warning signs before they do, and I'll get in and buy them. So that's something to think about for those of you listening. Like, don't always buy college or prep arms. Like, just don't. Like, it's a trap. Like, there's only a couple. Like, Mick Abel's going to be one, I think. That's going to be one that sneaks through. There's only a handful of them out there.
Well, the next guy up is Ryan Cusack with Atlanta. But Mason, you brought up a good point about things that can really hurt your body. And it just made me want to crack another beer and then have a pull of the Jaeger here. So tell us a little bit about the Atlanta Brave.
So Mikulski threw the second hardest pitch in college baseball last year, behind Mikulski we just talked about, and then a spot before McGarry. So absolute gas. He's also, like, really smart too. After he got drafted, he went and added a slider.
Sorry, I was gonna say, like, phys ed major smart, or
like I'm gonna go and learn, like, a really good pitch in a matter of, like, 2 weeks, and then go shove in minor leagues with it. That's it.
Okay. And that's a Wake Forest kid, 21-year-old. We've got Colson Montgomery, shortstop project out of Southridge
Did we
High
skip
School.
over Cusick? I missed that. I think we went back to Mikulski, but I don't think we covered Cusick.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we did not cover Cusick. So Cusick is 17th. He was drafted 24th by Atlanta. So what is the deal with the Wake Forest boy?
Yeah, so really good fastball, throws hard. The slider I just talked about, of course, really, really good. And his big pitch in college was his curveball, like a big loopy one at like 76, 79 miles an hour that he had a good feel for. I think he threw his curveball in the zone more than his fastball, which makes no sense because it dropped like 52 inches. So
holy crap.
Those 2 pitches were good in college. He never really threw a changeup, but I will gamble on any single pitcher that knows as much about, like, pitch design and, like, maximizing, like, possible outputs from their body. Like, I'll gamble on every single one of those guys. Plus the Braves are good orb too.
Well, I think it's interesting though. Like, you got a guy like Anthopoulos in Atlanta, drafting heavily out of Wake Forest. Like, there's something that he knows that's different because, like, what was the guy that he took last year? Yeah, like, not really a high profile guy, but just a safer kind of guy, right? But then to come in and kind of get a guy here, again, not an elite, but probably better than Schuster. Just, kind of speaks to there's something going on here, right? To take 2 guys from the same school, like, he had done it previously, like, started the Mississippi State run in Toronto, way back in the day with John Harris. So those are, like, it's just interesting to see a guy that's draft heavy follow the same school profile. That's all. I just think it's worth noting.
It might also be that he has a child who's looking to apply. I mean, I don't know. We'll find out as time goes on. Next gap here, I'm interested in shortstop prospect Colson Montgomery with the White Sox. They don't have enough shortstop potential already with the White Sox. So at 22, they took this 19-year-old. You've got him ranked 16, so you like him. And what? Oh my goodness! Oh, sorry, that Jaeger is not. It's not coming back. But sorry, you've got him at 16. What do you like about Montgomery with the White Sox?
He's really big and physical and hits for power. He also is a sneaky good athlete, and he could actually stay at shortstop, surprisingly. In the pre-draft, I thought he was a third baseman, but like I was probably wrong. I didn't think he was that good defensively, but like he actually looks like he's probably average to above.
Okay, the next guy up at Ty. I don't know about you. You're a Jays fan, but you got Tiger blood. You're very Sheen like with your Tiger blood. Jackson Jobe was picked 3rd overall, and you got him back at 15. And I'm sure some of our listeners that still have hair are pulling a little bit at it and wondering why would you throw him this far back? He's an 18-year-old pitcher. There's a lot of reasons very easily statistically to say you just shouldn't be aggressive on an 18-year-old high school pitcher. What is it with Jackson Jobe that you think warrants 15 and that maybe dynasty owners should pass on if they have, say, top 5, top 10 picks?
Yeah, so really good athlete. The only issue with him is his fastball shape. I had him pretty much in my top 10 on my draft board for like the 11 months beforehand consistently. And then like the month beforehand, I saw his fastball data, and it's a little bit disconcerting. Like slider's really good. He already added a curveball that's really good. Changeup's going to work itself out just because it's slot. He'll throw it pretty good. His fastball just doesn't get a lot of whiffs, and he has a pretty generic release height, and he doesn't get a lot of vertical carry. So, like, there's some issues, like, if he's going to be able to get whiffs. And it's not like a pitch he's going to be able to get ground balls with. So, like, the only avenue to, like, making the pitch good is essentially, like, throwing it less. And so, like,
right.
The Tigers are smart. Like, their new pitching coach they got last year is pretty good. So, maybe it could work out.
All right. So even at 18, I mean, we already know that those guys are projects, but you're thinking that could be a little bit harder of a road for him to be successful. And that would be based on pitch selection from the get-go. So everybody take note. Next guy up is an absolute darling already. And you were saying, pump the brakes a little bit. Jordan Lawler with Arizona. I believe I've seen him taken as high as 3 overall. 3rd, I guess that's how you say 3 when you're doing it that way.
I think I saw him go 1 in a Twitter feed draft somewhere.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got him at 14. What's the deal with all? We know he's good, but like, what's the separating factor here that you've got him back that far? First high you saw? Wow.
I think so, yeah. Unless I'm just still foggy here, but I'm pretty confident I saw.
Are you sure it wasn't Brett Laurie you saw first?
Yeah.
No? Anybody?
Definitely not.
All right, Mace, your turn. Save us.
So, of any player taken in the first 2 rounds, Lawler had the slowest bat speed. So there's your first big red flag, right? Like, if you want to hit the ball hard, you have to have bat speed, right? It's the most important thing of like baseball outside of maybe swing decisions. Bad bat speed, so number 1 issue. Defensively, he's probably a shortstop, but like I don't think he's as good as everyone thinks he is defensively, which is an issue. And the big thing, like a lot of people said he had good contact. Like he had one of the worst like swing and miss rates of any high scorer last year too. Like he hit the ball like on a line like a good amount, like right, like good barrel accuracy, but like his whiffs were high. Like I couldn't.
Beautiful.
He obviously is like a 60, 70 runner, so that's probably the reason I assume a lot of people in fantasy love him. He was taken 6th overall. He's a plus runner, and he plays shortstop, and everyone knows his name. So that's probably why. I don't know. I couldn't stomach taking him.
Well, I've been talking about this last couple of weeks, Robbie. Like just in terms of the profile of baseball shifting, right? Like we've talked about power and swing playing and all that for so long. Like, what's the next evolution and change to the game? Well, it's going to be an injection of speed back into it, right? And adding some of those advantages to be able to run again. And do some of that stuff. I really strongly believe, and Kansas City tried it. They just didn't have any actual people that could hit to do it. So, I think there is a trajectory here, but I don't know that Lawler is the answer. I just think maybe it's a sign that there is a trend.
So Mason, first off, thank you. thank you for saying that. Just because somebody was drafted high and appears to be quote unquote sexy for baseball doesn't mean they're actually going to do anything. And if you want to talk about whatever stats you need to for, the speed component and whatever, Lawler's a project. And I think that's very fair. And a lot of people are overlooking that for fantasy purposes. So I think it's great that you've pointed that out. Hopefully our listeners can take note. And I mean, maybe if they have a high pick, it would be worth trading back, getting one of the different shortstops, or maybe the next guy up here, because you can't miss, Ty. You can't miss. It's a Colorado first-round pick, Benny Montgomery, 18-year-old outfielder from Redland High School in PA. The land where I went to buy my truck and it was rusty, and I hate Pennsylvania right now because of it. So anyway, he was drafted eighth overall. You've got him at 13. What can dynasty owners expect out of Benny Montgomery beyond, their first round pick is gone?
Plus runner, plays center field. Swing is pretty vicious. A lot of bat speed. Kind of not the most aesthetically pleasing swing, but like he makes it work. Like I feel like he's always done the last year and a half, like whether on the high school circuit or on the showcase circuit, he just performed. He looked like he struggled in the minor leagues. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I feel like he struck out a ton, right?
Not too bad. I mean, just a small sample, right? Like only what do you get? 47 plate appearances, 9 strikeouts. So that's not bad. 340 average, 787 OPS. So power has some time to develop.
He did way better. I thought for some reason like the 400 OPS range.
I mean, he only had 16 hits, right? Like, I mean, it's not like he really ripped the cover off the ball, and it's a small sample. Like anybody can get hot for a couple weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't. It's nothing to get excited about, but yeah, I think the power profile is the thing here, right? Like that's what we should all be watching. If you're a fantasy owner, is like, can that develop? Can he be more than just a hit speed guy?
Exactly.
All right, next up is number 12 ranked for you, Mason, Gavin Williams of Cleveland. We know that's a factory of pitching, but generally speaking, I should say, the Cleveland pitchers, like Ty's favorite, Eli Morgan, come out of nowhere. Don't say that, Ty. You love Eli Morgan.
I could hit off Eli Morgan. If he throws that pus change up in there again, like if it starts on the inner half, don't swing. Like it's not hard. Yet they do all day, every day. It's stupid.
I'm sorry, Mason. I got him going. That's my fault. Gavin
Baseball
Williams.
Players are stupid though. That was Mason's point earlier about Hogland.
21-year-old pitcher out of East Carolina, got $2.25 million. He was 23rd. You've got him ranked 12th, so you like him. Now, is part of your the fact that he's with an organization that does good things with good pitchers, and they can just make what he already has into an even better package at the MLB level?
Definitely. I feel like the only issue with Williams is the fact that he got hurt in college a couple times. Like the stuff is so good. I'm looking at it right now. He had the second highest average fastball velo in the country last year behind Bachman, and he was tied with Kusick. So throws gas, four good pitches, slider, curveball, changeup. And then Cleveland's going to fix him.
And I was just going to say, and the Cleveland factor. Now, you've already given praise to San Francisco, and you've got the guy that I took in my only draft to take place so far, Will Bednar with San Francisco. You have him as your 11th guy. What's the deal with the Mississippi State, former Mississippi State starting pitcher?
Also drafted him in my fantasy league.
There we go.
A stud.
That's why this is the podcast for smart people. That's why. Sorry, but please tell the people a little bit more about Bednar.
Just go watch his national championship outing. He was just disgusting. He's shoved against Rocker. Guy just shows up on the big stage.
And that is huge. Ty's talked about that with Drew Rasmussen, who is now with Tampa Bay, as somebody who took the long road to get there. He was a first-round pick with Milwaukee. I think he was Rasmussen originally a Jays pick and then went back in and then came. It was a long story with him. I think he was originally Tampa Bay. He didn't sign. Then he went to Milwaukee. Anyway, we talked about it in the summer.
Arizona, then Tampa. Then
he was drafted thrice. Yeah, he was thrice drafted.
He was drafted 39th. Then he got taken 39th round. Then he got drafted 31st overall. Mm-hmm. And then he went back and got drafted in the 6th round.
That's what happened. You lose that. What's it called? The leverage. Yeah, you lose the leverage. All right, now we're into your top 10, Mason. We're into your top 10. Matt McClain with Cincinnati, shortstop, out of college, California, Los Angeles. Sounds prestigious. $4.625 million prestigious, actually. So what's the deal with Matt McClain, who was actually drafted 17th overall? You've got him at 10.
Yeah, he's just a stud. He's hit for literally 4 years. He was a first rounder out of high school, I think, too, to the Dodgers, or maybe it was
Okay.
early second comp round. I don't even know.
So that'd be something in like 18, 19, maybe? We can go back and have a look at that.
Yeah. Just performs. Shortstop. He played center field as a freshman because I think their shortstop got drafted too. He's just a really good hitter. Sneaky power too. He actually lifts the ball really well.
One of the things I just concerned a little bit about, I talk about this with Robbie all the time, 5'11", 180 or 6'2", 180. Those are like the those are the templates, right? And Matt falls into that like 5'11" range. So like from a fantasy perspective, like there's a low percentage of 5'11" like power fantasy producers, right? So that's my concern is like, can he produce on a fantasy side? Like these are the kind of guys, like as a baseball coach, like these are the kind of guys you want to have. They do a lot of things right. They play the game well. But as a fantasy owner, and this happens a lot in drafts, right? We see guys that are great baseball players, catchers being a good example, that get drafted well above their fantasy value. Do you see the potential for McClain to fall into that category, or do you think he'll exceed that expectation on the offensive side?
I could see him exceeding, to be honest. I don't know. I don't want to bet against someone who has just performed everywhere they've been for the last 4 years.
And I will add this. So McClain was a first-round draft pick to the Diamondbacks, 25th overall in 18, and declined that one. So like you said, yeah, you were right. And I mean, his OBP just makes my pants tight. He's 370 and as high as like 434 in 2021. So in his draft year at NCAA, and then he came up and even as a pro debut, 389 OBP. Beautiful. Now he's not an 18-year-old doing it. He's 21-year-old. But as far as like getting the guy up and moving, that's good. Now, Jose Barria is going to be the shortstop of the future with Cincinnati. He just needs to convert his AAA success into MLB. But Matt McClain, promising guy. Number 15 in the draft was Sal Frelick with Milwaukee, 21-year-old shortstop at a Boston college. He got $4 million for that, and you have him ranked inside your top 10. So what bumped him up? What's the deal with Frelick? Is that I'm saying that right? Frelick?
Yeah,
Frelick. Yeah.
You'll like him. He played hockey, I'm pretty sure. He's from Boston.
Oh, top 5. He's top 5.
Yeah. He's basically a Canadian, to be honest.
Probably doesn't have all of his own teeth, right?
I think he's a high on base percentage guy too. I think he walked more than he struck out. So the on base percentage guys will love him.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, he was 447, 380, 470, 443 in his college years. Translated to, right? So he played 3 levels last year, all small samples. 529, 494, 296 with a small sample at high A, but that's a lot of levels for a bat that looks like they probably expect to move pretty quickly here.
Well, yeah, so just to break down even further, Ty, from what you said, rookie ball was only 4 games, but then he went 16 games at A, and then they had the confidence in him to move him to high A for 15 games to finish out the year. The average did not come with him because he was batting over 400 at the first 2 levels. So it caught up, but that's a good thing, right? Like he obviously wasn't being tested. So now they know straight away he'll still probably go back to high A to start next year and be around the league average in age, and we'll really get to see what Frelick can do and how he moves up. Now, this next guy, Ty, I'm sure you hate the idea of it. High school catching prospect. How sexy does that sound to the fantasy owners out there? Well, it's Harry Ford, everybody. Harry Ford with Seattle. You like him, Mason? What is it you like about Harry Ford? I have seen and I have heard him higher than Henry Davis in several spots, and I'm curious your thoughts. You've got Davis 1 up, just to give that away to everybody. We've got Harry Ford at 8. We've got Henry Davis at 7.
So Ford might not even be a catcher, to be honest. He ran a 6.7 in high school. He's a plus athlete. He could be a freaking center fielder. He could play shortstop for all I care. He's a stud. And then there was some video that went viral a couple of weeks ago, just showing off his bat speed. Like he just has so much bat speed. He's such an explosive athlete. So that's why I love him. You could argue Davis should be below him. I'm fine with that. Davis just performed in college in the SEC,
Right.
or the ACC. So that's just why I'm a spot ahead.
All right. So that gets us to 6 here. I don't know, Ty, do you have anything on that? Because I know you've talked before about catching prospects are the best when they're going to move off the position. So,
Yeah, I love catchers that move off the position. So if Harry Ford is projected off, he just got bumped way on my list. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I'm drafting my catchers late, if ever.
yeah. And like I said before, I will not put anybody inside my top 20 simply because of the fact that they just will not play enough. And if, you can talk about catcher DH and like all that stuff. No. Like you got to give those guys breaks because they are bending down. They are doing the work. The hardest physical position of any in Major League Baseball is the catcher. And that's why they do need the breaks. Even as they age, they're gonna potentially need more
Something
time.
I would love for us to go back and look at someday, Robbie, is just how many high school catchers out of the draft stay catchers.
Okay, so guys that are stated catcher that end up all the way through. I bet you it's probably higher with J2, and that has more to do with the fact that, like you've talked about before, the Venezuelans, the Puerto Rican guys who they get cemented in that position when they're 12, whether they're actually 12 or not, and then they just maintain.
That's kind of what I'm getting at, right? Like maybe these guys are being drafted that way so they don't get moved off the position and drafted somewhere else, right? Like I just would think it would be a fun little thing to do a homework project on one day.
Well, it will rain, and on that day we can look that up. Colton Cowser is your number 6, and he was drafted number 5, 21-year-old outfielder, now with Baltimore from Sam Houston State. What's the deal with Cowser? I like the fact that you didn't move him a lot or the next guy up, but we'll talk about him in a moment. So Colton Cowser.
So I wasn't low on him before the draft, but I had him like 15th. So like
you dropped him a bit, yeah.
In the top 20 I moved him up a pretty good amount, right? So like really good numbers in college, just made a lot of contact, didn't face the best arms, but like he was a center fielder who hit the ball hard, did everything like you look for, didn't chase, took his walks, didn't strike out, like all that stuff, performed for 3 years at a mid-major, so kind of have to like him. And the Orioles also, they draft really good too, so another reason.
And Robbie, I've got a reason why you'll like him. I'm going to share the screen here and hopefully not exit the
whole podcast.
Yeah,
so Mason, this has happened before where Ty has pressed a button and technology has exited him from the podcast. And then I have done a great job of covering it. Oh, it's a video. Exciting. Yeah. Anybody watching the live stream.
It's so weird that it moved us over there though. That's the first. You can see what my potential videos are. They're not Rob and Tyler, as you can see. But anyway, so
yeah,
I'll just skip back here a second. So Ding Dong City here.
Whammy. Yeah.
So,
wait, that didn't go out. No, that did.
But watch the celly right here.
I was gonna say, is there a?
No.
So he won the game in the celebration. Anybody watching or wanting to go to see what Ty is talking about, go to our YouTube channel, Dingers Podcast, and we are 1 hour and 12 minutes and 50 some-ish seconds in. You can watch that video for yourself. And again, we did not mention it off the hop, but you can find Mason at Mason_McCrae. That's MCRAE, no double C in that one. You can find Ty at Tourney Boss. You can find myself at Robbie Baseball 1, and you can find the podcast at Dingers Pod, not to mention RobbieBaseball.com, where I am now writing again because I have a bit of time in the morning because it's too cold to work on boats. So I am working on fantasy baseball prospects. So now we are into Mason's top 5, and we are getting into one of those potential dynasty darlings, and I think a trap player myself. But Marcelo Mayer with Boston, 18-year-old. He was drafted 4th overall. You've got him at 5. What's up? Marcelo Mayer. What's up?
So I love Mayer. He's really good. I would not draft him if I am in fantasy.
Totally agree.
He's just
why would you not draft him?
Because like usually where you could take Mayer, someone like Watson or House or Sweeney is available, and I would take them over him 10 times out of 10.
Okay, fair enough. And a
Just
little
lack of
bit.
power, is that the concern?
I think he's the least likely of those four, Watson, House, Sweeney, Mayer, to stay at shortstop probably. And I just
Okay.
I'm just more confident in Watson and House and their offensive skills. And Sweeney, I mean, we've seen him in college against real people. So
And Ty,
real
to
people.
yeah, that's
Instead of
great.
those fake
That's
guys playing against the high schoolers.
That's a t-shirt. That's a t-shirt. I've seen this guy play against real people. Marcelo Mayer, Ty, you might be on side with us. I know he's not a pitcher, but 6'3", 188. That is a thin.
Well, the only
boy.
thing I'll say is that you know, this is the kind of guy that gets underappreciated and bulks up. So there is a frame, like right now he looks like Benintendi, right? And could fill in to be Bogarts, right? And so that's the only thing that I'll add to that is that, you know, there is some here hits from the left side. So as long as he can keep his shoulder in, unlike Duran in his organization, he'll be fine.
Whew, wow. Throwing shade at Jared Duran. What I like that you kept that all Boston also with the three guys, because I wanted to say, imagine the stress you put on dynasty players and owners when you said he looks like Benintendi, and they were like, "Oh, I don't want to fall into that trap," right? Like a potential top 15, redraft guy.
Yeah, but if you owned Benintendi for a while though, you're probably feeling like you need to get hurt. It's been a while. So Mayer is
you're willing. Yeah, you're willing. Okay, so I'm going to say this is the biggest jump that I saw, and it was based on a tweet from you last week, Mace, that I thought I'm going to stop doing my rankings here on my first year guys until we've had this conversation. So the 20th overall pick was Trey Sweeney this past year with the Yankees, which already just makes me sick. And he's 21 years old, and he's a shortstop, and he's out of Eastern Illinois, and he got paid $3 million right around. All this is good stuff, but you have ranked him 4th overall. Do tell.
Yeah, is it possible to show that tweet?
I could probably find it. Rob it's not possible for Rob, but
yeah, I can't do that. I'm gonna put my phone up to the screen, and then nothing's gonna come up.
Hold on, I'll find
Ty
it.
has
45
technology.
Seconds.
Okay, well let's go back. We'll come back to him.
It'll be like my mic drop, to be honest. Like that's just
okay. Then let's go back to him. The highest
rank. Got it.
Oh, we got it. So you're so quick, Ty.
It's not amateur hour over here, boys.
It is when I'm running it, but with Ty, here we go. So the tweet says, "For a good time call." No, sorry, different tweet. That's my Twitter.
Pounds a drink mid-sentence.
I can't read it. So Ty,
that's how your name ends up on bathroom stalls, by doing that in the middle of the conversation.
It's too small for me to read. So okay, sorry. Here we are, guys. It says Trey Sweeney's 2021 amateur data in comparison to fellow draftees. 99th percentile contact rate, 99th percentile swing decisions, 93rd percentile sweet spot rate, 96th percentile peak exit velo, 98th percentile quality of contact. The Yankees got an absolute steal. # love you. I may have added the last part, but yeah. So you clearly feel like Sweeney as a pro has been the steal of the draft.
Yeah, I think he's a stud. Like whatever you want, like an amateur prospect to do, like he's done it. He is the only player in the last 3 drafts to have an average EV greater than 95 and then a contact rate greater than 80. He is the only player in the last 3 drafts outside of Adley Rutschman to have a 90th or better percentile on those 5 things I showed in that tweet. He is the only shortstop in the last 3 years to have a contact rate greater than 80, an average EV greater than 90, and then a max EV greater than 108. So, like, however you want to filter out, like, players before the draft, like, every single filter, it's going to be, like, the Trey Sweeney filter. Like,
they had that all locked and loaded to back up that tweet.
Oh, it's beautiful. He's 6'4", 200 pounds. For us Canadians, he's 193 centimeters and 90 kgs. Thank you, baseballreference.com. But I love it. I love the fact that you are saying, do you guys remember Nolan Gorman, how he was drafted in the 20th by St. Louis, and he has this risk reward? Well, here's a guy, Trey Sweeney, was drafted in a similar position. The risk is not there, but the reward is. Right? You've got factual data that, like, Trey Sweeney, smart baseball player, also college, not high school drafted guy. So would you say he is pretty much, as far as you're concerned, a fantasy lock to get opportunity? Because we have no idea what's going to happen, right? He could just be throwing a steady diet of curveballs and maybe he can't hit them, whatever the case is. You think Trey Sweeney will be an MLBer and sooner than later?
I think he's going to be playing at third base right next to Anthony Volpe by the end of 2023. Yeah, 2023, I think.
Okay. I like that. All right, let's talk about your top-rated starting pitcher. Jack Leiter went to Texas. He was second overall in the draft. I meant to say, well, I was going to say first because he should have been, but Pittsburgh. Anyway, so Leiter, you think this is just a lock out of a small school named Vanderbilt?
Yeah, I think he is a lock. Yeah. Vanderbilt pitcher, performance, best fastball in amateur baseball last year. 5 pitches, though he didn't use the 5th one, which was a cutter, like virtually ever. Slider's all right. Curveball's really good. Changeup is better than it's been in the past. Throws a lot of strikes. Gets a lot of swing and misses. His fastball down the middle last year had a higher swing and miss than 4 first-round picks did when you removed pitches down the middle from the equation. Jordan Wicks, Michael McGreevy, Sam Bachman. Then the 4th one was – that was it, those 3. But, his fastball is so good. And it's against SEC guys. He's missing bats, too.
Yeah. Okay, and Ty, you have also talked about the fact that he's with Texas, and the Texas park is a plus now, whereas it used to be kind of a
totally
hit.
My only concern with Leiter is just the lack of eliteness to his other pitches, right? That at the major league level, that makes a difference, right? At college, you can get away with it a little bit, right? But at the pros, which we're all assuming Leiter is going to be a pro at the highest level, I just, that's my big concern with him. I think the ceiling's high, but I also think the floor is lower than a lot of people have talked about so far. That's my concern. I don't know if anyone has anything to add to that or not.
Well, I mean, we saw the growing pains with Brady Swinger, or I guess we're seeing the growing pains with a Brady Singer, Casey Mize, some of those other high drafted guys in making the switch to the pros and then kind of locking it in as whatever they're going to be when they get up. So you're just sort of suggesting to dynasty owners that just keep in mind that it doesn't mean Leiter's, come 2023 is going to be a dynasty SP1.
Yeah.
Fair. Now, here the last 2 are the top 2. These are movers. Now, one of them is I would say, hot name that people have just been very excited about, and it upsets me slightly, and I'll tell you why in a moment. And that's your number 2, Brady House, who was picked 11th overall with Washington. 18-year-old shortstop out of Winterboro High School, was given $5 million. And the reason I don't like him is last year in the J2, Armando Cruz was signed by Washington, and I prefer him. But we haven't got all the data yet that helps to back up my case. But Brady House, very exciting guy. Do you think he is fantasy darling, just like 5 categories or 8, whatever you're going to play if you're going to count walks, stolen bases, and OBP or OPS? Is House just complete package player? Is that the deal here?
Yeah, House just does everything. Not as good as Bobby Witt Jr., unfortunately, but pretty dang similar player. He's just a stiff athlete. The way he swings, it's pretty stiff. But he's explosive and a lot of bat speed. Hits the ball hard. Performed. We went through some swing changes too last year, and when he did start getting towards the end of that, you saw him hit the ball in the air way more often than he did in the summer when most teams did see him. He's a really good athlete too. I think he's a shortstop, even though a lot of people think he's a third baseman, which is why I think I have him higher than a lot of other people do. And I also took him in my fantasy league. He was 4th overall.
I actually see him as a center fielder.
I mean, that's even better, maybe.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, he doesn't have a spot at third base, Ty, because that's where Carter Keyboom plays. So, right? Come on, everybody. No, nobody. All right, let's talk about number 1. 1-1 in the Mason McCrae draft is Khalil Watson with Miami, 18-year-old shortstop, Wake Forest High School. And yeah, he was the issue with him was going to be signing, right? Like because he was committed, he was not going to sign, and then Miami said, we'll get you. Like 4.5 million doesn't seem like a barrier. So was there something else behind that with Watson?
Yeah, he dropped because of makeup concerns.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. But Miami said, we got you. We can coach up.
Thank God. I mean, I would love to see Khalil Watson in college, and I'm biased because I love college, but how can you let that guy pass?
Right. Okay, so this was potentially one of those guys, like a Jordan. Was it Jordan Lawler? No, who was it we talked about that got drafted and did not sign?
McLean in high school?
Yeah, Matt McClain. Yeah. So it was potentially like a Matt McClain situation where he could have been drafted and said, no, thanks. I'm going to take my talent to California, Los Angeles College. But for Watson, you think this is the guy. If you're 1-1 in your draft, you got to take him because all the tools, everything seems like it's the right time for a dynasty owner to jump.
I do. Yeah. He does everything I feel like you like in fantasy too. Really good base runner, good defender, defense is matter in fantasy, but like he's good enough to like stay a shortstop and be valuable at that spot.
Right.
Really good bat speed. He had one of the most beautiful home runs ever last year at the WWBA. I don't know if you want to look at the video. Just a gorgeous swing. I mean, picture perfect.
Do we want to watch it?
I was just going to say, I can hear Ty clicking right now. So
yeah, it's Prospect Live's video.
Oh, okay, cool. So while Ty's looking it up, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you, where they can find what it is that you are up to right now? Because you were doing you were doing a prospect draft before, and you were posting a lot of various things. Is Twitter the safest spot for you, or is there a website that we can direct everybody to?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. That's about it.
All right.
Is the video? Sorry, is the video behind from the chain link?
It's on the third base side.
So yeah, finding Mason at Mason_McCrae, once again, MCRAE. And yeah, you do enjoy hot Twitter debates also. It is fun to watch you smash people who make silly comments against things that you have tweeted. It's sort of like you put the cement down there, and as it's curing, people come up and try to put their hand in it to make that work, and then you just kind of swat it away and let them know that facts play out when they are messing with Mason. So yeah, it's great. And thank you so much for coming with us. We're going to pull the clip up here. Ty has it from the perfect game. So let's watch, for anybody watching the live stream, Khalil Watson just murder ball this.
Yeah,
whammy.
Yeah. I will say, I agree with him near the top. I have House ahead of him, but I also think you can't really go wrong with either of them, in my opinion.
Yeah. Khalil Watson has a beautiful swing from the left-hand side. There is another, and this is not Mason's wheelhouse. There is a J2 signing that I have insanely high hopes for, and I am going to probably be miserably disappointed. But he is an off-the-radar pick that we'll talk about on a future podcast. But yeah, that was it. Mason told you what you needed to know for your first year player drafts from the MLB side. Ty and I are going to discuss J2 guys in an upcoming episode, but happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
And Mace, thanks for coming on and doing this. This is one of our favorites every year. So we appreciate you taking the time to join us and share your intense knowledge. But until next time, Sin Rob and Tyler here on Dingers.